Okay, so as I was introduced before, my name is Jonathan Karras, Jonathan Karras. I'm CEO of App Studio. These slides will be available soon enough on our site, appstudio.co.il, so if you have any other questions or you want to leave a comment, you're more than welcome to address it there. Okay, so the title of this lecture is Mobile Migration, with a focus on some of the mistakes that people make when they try and convert their desktop-oriented site to a mobile platform. I'm breaking this lecture up essentially into two different parts. One is more of a theoretical part of just in general, what's the difference between the user that's sitting in front of a traditional PC or a large screen, and the user that's essentially on the go or using a small mobile platform. Okay, so I can skip a little bit about us because we were already introduced. And so let's start out on the history of mobile browsing. Okay? So mobile browsing started in the 90s with the WAP browser. Now the WAP browser doesn't process HTML, but instead it processes WML. It's not really going to be part of this lecture because we're going to be focusing more on the smartphone, which can process XHTML. Okay, so my partner David is going to just talk a little bit, reiterate a little bit of what we've seen in the growth of the mobile platform.
Yeah, so basically Ronan gave a little speech about different devices that support mobile WordPress, and thanks for the little poll out there. So we see here that the majority of people here are iPhone users at least. But basically, there's still other companies out there, I don't know why, but they're still flashing. One of them is Nokia, they're running Symbian, and right now they have, I think, over 80 million smartphone devices that are running on this operating system. And it's important to take this into consideration because that's a big number, and they still want to keep this piece of pie running for them. The other ones are Microsoft with their Microsoft Mobile, or actually they renamed it recently to Microsoft Phone 7. It's coming out anytime soon now. And their market share is actually going down, and I do see them trying to do something about it. One of the things that they were trying to develop their own phone, which was originally called the Microsoft Pink project, then they called it Kin 1 and 2, and as you probably all know, it just died. Just like Google's phone that very few people using these days. Here's the Android. Unlike Google Phone, it's actually a pretty popular platform, and it's picking up very fast. In just over a year since it came out, it grew about 10 times. And now there's about 7 million devices that are running on Android, primarily HTC and Motorola-based devices. And this platform is very fast growing. It has about 50,000 apps on it already, unlike iPhone that has about 200,000 apps out there. And of course there's an iPhone with iOS 4 and over 120 million devices that are running the system, which can all take advantage of the apps that are done for the system, including some of the apps that we develop ourselves. And last but not least is BlackBerry, which is another important platform, which is right now I think number 2 after Nokia, developed by RIM, and they have their own app world, and they're also out there just trying to compete with Apple.
Flash support.
We're talking about it. Yeah, so now back to Jan, who's going to talk about it next time.
Yeah, so one of the main problems that is happening with the mobile migration nowadays is the advanced content, the limitations of it. And like you mentioned, the major player here is mobile flash. So there's kind of a love-hate relationship going on with Flash nowadays. We're not really sure what the future of it is going to be. So just to quote a little bit from one of the keynotes that Jobs gave in April was, he listed 6 reasons why iOS is not going to be supporting Flash. So to go through those, he says that, number 1, Flash is not open source, unlike HTML5, its main competitor, and it's proprietary software owned by Adobe. Number 2, that 75% of the video on the web is in Flash, but most of this video is available in a more modern format, which is the competitor H.264, which is viewable on the iOS devices. In terms of reliability, security, and performance, We've seen that Flash has had numerous security issues in the past 2 years. Also, battery life. For example, the iPhone itself can be shown to have 10 hours of video playback in H.264, while only 5 hours when it's on the Flash platform. Also, the issue of touch, that Flash was primarily created for a desktop environment with a keyboard and mouse. Now, even though you have a whole plethora of applications that were written for Flash, you're not going to create a native experience automatically by just adding a Flash player on a touchscreen device. Things like mouse over, things like being able to drag and highlight multiple things. The pinpoint precision that a mouse offers isn't available and is never going to be available on a multi-touch surface. So also that Adobe wants developers to be able to adopt Flash and then be able to convert it to native formats that, like for example, Objective-C. And essentially by doing that, they will be holding these developers at the throat, you could say, that any new APIs that they want to be implemented, these developers won't have direct access to these part of the hardware and these part of the operating systems unless Adobe allows them, or when Adobe gets around to supporting that. So the main competitor, which is HTML5, is not nearly as robust, and we wanted to reflect that by kind of having a boring picture of HTML5. But it is advancing, and just to explain a little bit more about what it means to have an open source, have open source behind you. When we say HTML5, we aren't really saying HTML5. Really what we're saying is HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS. Now, because of the fact that any browser, well, one, because it doesn't need a plugin. That it's just your natural browser can support this JavaScript, can support this HTML5. And anyone who decides to build a browser, any company like Google or Firefox, they can process this however they want. There's a lot more competition in terms of optimization, in terms of battery life, and in terms of development. So those are a couple of the reasons why when you're choosing advanced content, you will be able to keep your Flash and have access to lots of different platforms, but this is something to consider, that if you want to be able to hit the whole market, HTML5, there's a good chance that that's going to be the way of the future. Another piece of advanced content is a PDF. So now, unlike HTML, unlike EPUB or MOBI formats that automatically readjust the layout of text, a PDF is essentially always going to appear on a small screen as a window kind of looking at a larger document behind. You do have the ability to pan and scale with various different zooming techniques, but really if you want your user to be able to read what's written on there, they're going to be constantly sliding their finger around like this. So it's not such a pleasant experience. Next thing to keep in mind is data submission. As fast as you might think that you are with typing on your iOS device or your BlackBerry's little keys or your Android touchscreen, or even there's that one thing where it's like you slide your fingers and it knows what you typed, or T9 maybe if you're still using that. You're not going to be as fast. Nobody's as fast with data submission on a touchscreen device or just on a mobile device as they are on a traditional keyboard. So if you are going to cater towards the mobile device and you do want information from your users, it's always important to minimize those, minimize the amount of typing that you require them to have, and CAPTCHAs, at least I find, are totally annoying on the mobile device. Okay.